like your shirt, Dave. Let's pivot here. Unvaccinated lives matter. This is not going away. This whole pressure to vaccinate. I know here, I'll go to you, Congresswoman BOEBERT, on this. We're seeing businesses start to stand up and say, you know what? We're not gonna do this. I don't care if we do have over 100 people. We're not going to do that. Do you see this growing in America? And what can we do to help this?
If this is what's happening all throughout the country. People are standing up and they are saying no more. We are not having these authoritarian mandates anymore. We're seeing Southwest. We're seeing United, even a judge blocking their mandates and freeing these employees. I was on a flight just a couple of days ago, and I overheard the flight attendants who were just furious. And they were saying, I wrote an essay and I said, we have to be willing to strike. And these are the conversations that are taking place in a grassroots fashion all across America for people to stand up. We've seen the image of the Southwest plane with the "Don't Tread on Me" flag hanging out the window. This is a massive movement, and it starts with the people taking a stand, and that's why we're having this "Let's Go Brandon" movement all throughout the country. And it truly is a storm of the people standing up and saying that we are not going to subject ourselves to this kind of tyranny anymore. This is a medical personal decision between somebody and their doctor, not between politicians and bureaucrats. And that's what I've said from the very beginning is this needs to be a personal decision to vaccinate or not. We're having these fights even at a local level in our schools with masks still. We were told that this was going to be 15 days to slow the spread. And here we are to show me your papers to eat at a restaurant. So I don't know if there's some sort of movement that we can start in the schools to replace our children's desks with restaurant tables so they can unmask and be safe. But we have to continue showing up to these board meetings and letting our voices be heard.
You're absolutely right. In fact, if we don't, we've seen lots of videos out of New Zealand and Australia. This one was the most shocking. Watch.
It's $1 Million Vax Time Australia, which means if you've received a COVID vaccination by the end of October, you could win $1 million. $1 million that could be yours if you enter now at $1milliondollarvax.com.
I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, that people are actually, the chance to win $1 million to get you vaccinated, David Harris Jr., this is ridiculous, to say the least. It's crazy.
Well, and we've seen it here as well. They've offered free burgers, free fries, free lap dances. I've seen that going around at strip clubs. They're offering free weed, it's free everything. The problem is nothing is ever free. Nothing is ever free. So why are they pushing so hard to get people to give up their bodily autonomy? It's like they're asking us to give ourselves to the state. Actually, they're not even asking us. With Joe Biden's apparent mandate, some of the latest that I've seen out so far is that there is no actual mandate for these businesses. There was a press release. There was a press release that Joe Biden gave saying that businesses with over 100 employees would be fined $7,000. Well, 100 employees is $700,000. So it's a press release of what this president put out. But the problem with me, Gene, is that this is basically slavery. Joe Biden is reinstituting a form of slavery where the government believes they own your body. They own your body, and if you don't subject yourself to this experimental vaccine that I don't think has any proof whatsoever that it's actually going to do anybody any good, there's actually a lot of data to suggest the opposite, that the Delta variant is more easily contracted and then shared to somebody else if you are vaccinated. But for the government to put this kind of press release out, call it a mandate, and companies demand their employees to accept this into their body, it's a form of slavery, all at the hands of Joe Biden.
It is. And whatever happened to HIPAA? I mean, what are those rules that we're not supposed to know about? it's been thrown out the window. You're exactly
Nuremberg
right.
Code, none of that. None of that should matter. We, the people, are just supposed to listen to the government. We're supposed to obey the government. The government knows best. Big government, they want to control everything that we do. We don't have a say-so. And don't check out the audits. Don't check out the elections. Don't worry about it. We have your back, and they'll have our back all the way to the gulag, in my opinion.
That's true. Well, listen, it's a great time to show this picture from Representative Boebert's Instagram. Anything that reduces freedom is totally un-American. That's true. Excellent statement there, Representative Boebert. Listen, we weren't going to talk about the Second Amendment, but I just got to hit it here, folks. It's what separates America from other nations, other countries with the Second Amendment. It is more crucial. It's not just the right to own a gun. It's about our very core freedom. Listen, the only nation in the world that has one constitution, no matter how much people try to get rid of it or work around it, we're the only one out there that's done this successfully for all of these years. I'm going to get Wendy, I know where Representative Boebert stands, but I want to get Wendy Rogers to weigh in on that. Second Amendment, is this something we should be concerned about?
Oh, my gosh, yes. And it's interesting here in northern Arizona, and I think Representative Boebert would echo this sentiment in her part of Colorado. You might find people who are liberal on some issues, but don't take their guns. I can tell you, even in parts of my district, which are sort of new agey, Sedona in particular, I've knocked a lot of doors. But do not take their guns. I'm a lifetime member of the NRA, concealed carry permit holder, as is everyone in my family. And Arizona is a big pro-Second Amendment state. As a new state senator, I actually got a pretty fundamentally important bill passed, Second Amendment-wise, which accorded essential business status to ammo shops and gun stores during an emergency, which our governor signed just a few months ago. I'm pretty proud of that. So gun shows are big here, especially in my district, and we're very adamant about keeping our rights. I represent a rural district. There are only 7 out of the 30 of us who do here in Arizona. And my constituents are just on fire. And they say, we don't appreciate that the capital, Phoenix, tends to run everything in our state. You get down there, Senator Rogers, and you represent us. And you tell them that we want our guns, and we want our freedom, and we want Brnovich to arrest people. And we're just not standing for this. We're not standing to have our votes down there in Maricopa County, which is the most populous county in the state. We're not into having that stolen.
That's right. And I know Representative Boebert's got to go here, but I'm going to get a last comment. Second Amendment stuff. It's interesting to me that in the midst of all of this concern about Second Amendment and how we need to get rid of our guns, what's happening? Ammo sales are through the roof. Gun sales are through the roof. We're seeing that in America. I don't think this is going to go so easily for the left, is it?
No, there are nearly 10 million new gun owners in America. And I think that really started with the whole defund the police movement, because Americans will have a way to protect themselves. And either they're going to have law enforcement do it, or they will take matters into their own hands and have protection for themselves. I carry a firearm because I want to protect myself against a larger potential aggressor. As a petite woman with 4 children, I want to be able to defend my family and the people around me. And so we're actually seeing their plan backfire, because they certainly want to take your right to keep and bear arms away. But we're seeing that backfire on them, and more people all throughout the country are purchasing these firearms. And, I really just want to applaud the contributors here on this show today. Senator Rogers, thank you so much for taking your stand in Arizona for the people. America is watching you and what is happening in Arizona. Right. So thank you for being that voice. I know that Congressman Andy Biggs, chairman of the Freedom Caucus, who I'm happy to serve in the Freedom Caucus with, has been very involved in this as well, and has even brought this conversation here to the Hill. And of course, David Harris Jr., thank you so much for always just being a strong voice for freedom. Thank you for coming to my district in La Plata County, right outside of Durango, and sharing so much enthusiasm and joy and love for the Lord with my constituents. And you mentioned, David, that Christians weren't voting. And I think that's something that we all just need to lock in and make sure that our brothers and sisters are voting in this next election, because what we don't honor, we automatically dishonor. We have the sacred right to vote. And so many men and women have given their lives to ensure we have a voice in the direction of this country's future. And as Christians, we need to recognize that more than anyone else, and know that there is a place for Christians to be a part of government. God said that he concerns himself with the affairs of man and government. So we absolutely have a part to play. And if we don't speak, if we remain silent, we lose by default. I know that there is great hope for our country. If there wasn't, I would not leave my 4 boys every single day to do what I'm doing. This is the greatest country this world has ever seen. American exceptionalism exists, and we are going to continue to fight for it and glorify God in the process.
Amen. Well said. Well said. All right, we're going to take a break. In case you missed it, we're going to replay an interview. President Trump. I know, Representative Boebert, you've got to go. Don't go away. You've got so much more after the Trump interview, but we'll be right back. And welcome back to the second half of Flashpoint. Lots of great stuff coming up. Before we get to President Trump, let me go to Senator Rogers. Senator Rogers, we are in the news. We're seeing this more and more every day about servicemen that are having to take a dishonorable discharge because of their refusal to take a vaccine, as well as some that took the vaccine that they thought was approved and it really wasn't. As you served for many years, at you and your husband, I want to know what's your thoughts on this and how do we turn this around?
Well, it's tragic. It's absolutely despicable. And what it is a degradation of our military. It's a concerted effort to harm those of us in the military. And it's an overall effort, I think, to completely destroy our military. On my website, wendyrogers.org, I do have legal references where military members can go to get legal help. And I just now put that up, I think, in the last day or two, as well as legal links to help those who are applying for religious exemptions in regular civilian companies. This is not about health. This is not about science. This is a concerted effort to destroy our economy, our nation, our education system. People need to take 2 steps back and look at the big picture. This is a nefarious, evil, rot from inside the country, as well as bearing down on us from outside the country. We have the best military in the world, and they're doing everything they can to take us down. But for heroes like Marine Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, who's being court-martialed for calling out the feckless, reckless leadership that oversaw the evacuation from Afghanistan, the tragic loss of 13 Marines. It's amazing. I served 20 years, retired as a lieutenant colonel. My husband served 20 years, as you know, as well. And I'm a 5th generation career military officer. Our son was the 6th generation to serve as a military officer. He was a Marine. And so this really hits home. It's tragic. I get emails every day, and I'm speechless in some ways. But what I have tried to do is provide sources for legal help on wendyrogers.org.
Thank you, and thank you for doing that so much, Senator. David Harris Jr., it seems like when you look at this from the outside looking in, just to what's going on, you would seem to think, you would come to the conclusion, this is part of the plan. This is all part to just to debilitate our military. I mean, these are men and women who serve. Some of them, are lifetime. It's their career. They've made a commitment to it. This is ridiculous what they're trying to do to American.
It is absolutely absurd, and it's so sad and disheartening to see what so many of our brave men and women are having to deal with, being forced with this mandate to get the jab. I actually shared on my Instagram just this morning a video of a young man in the military currently that was basically breaking down what takes place if they refuse, and if they file for a medical or religious exemption. If that is refused, it can go to the court martial. A court martial, the highest penalty for that court martial is actually death. And this young man, I don't believe that's what's going to take place. This young man's stance and his point that he was trying to make was that he would be willing to die on this hill and not be forced to get the jab. So to see our brave young men and women that are being forced out of the military, Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, I shared his video on my Instagram, which kind of, a lot of it broke as soon as that happened. It was going viral anyway. But our hearts and prayers go out to our military men and women and their families. We've got to pray for their families. So many of these families are absolutely distraught, being separated from their family members, from our heroes, over their decision to stand up and say something against the jab, or just to demand accountability from this absolutely reckless administration that abandoned thousands of Americans, that cost the lives of 13 brave men and women, and then turns around and kills 10 Afghanis, including 7 children. We should all demand accountability. And again, our hearts and prayers should go out to not only the servicemen and women, but their families during this time.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point again. With this administration, elections have consequences. Stolen elections have even more dire consequences. And we do have to continue to stand up. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is up to you to get the facts and get your own information. You've heard Senator Rogers there at wendyrogers.org. You can get some information. You can go to our website. At govictory.com/flashpoint and go down to the bottom of the page and be a part. You'll see all these links to things that you can do to help fight what's going on. Don't listen to the mainstream media and take their word for it. This is a time you have got more than ever, have got to dive in and figure out what's going on in your world. Well, speaking of stolen elections, let's check in with what happened just a couple weeks ago when President Donald Trump called the red phone. Number 45, President Donald Trump. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on Flashpoint.
Well, thank you very much, Pastor. Great honor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. All right, just a few questions. I know you've got just a little bit of time. This may seem obvious to most people, but they need to know, why are so many in the mainstream media refusing to cover this election audit? And now more states are auditing the election results. What are your thoughts about that?
Because the media is corrupt, Pastor. You know it as well as I do, and many people know it. Probably the ones that know it best is the media itself. They are corrupt. They don't tell the truth, and they are, in fact, the enemy of the people, and it's a terrible thing. We had a tremendous audit. It was done by the Senate, the Arizona Senate, and they're brave people, and the findings were unbelievable. I mean, far more than the votes we needed. We had a deficit, which was a fake deficit, of about a little more than 10,000 votes. And they found tens of thousands of votes in all different categories, and it was a disgrace. So the media doesn't want to call it. I think they called it findings at the end, findings, and the findings were just brutal. And yet the media doesn't want to report the findings. It's really a very sad thing for our country.
It is, and Americans have lost respect for the media, and we're turning that around. But I find it very interesting. I've watched you in your rallies post 2020. What does it say? You're still able to draw such huge numbers in places like Coleman, Alabama, and Perry, Georgia. Right. I mean, this is no other elected official in history has ever come close to that. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's a great honor. They like what I'm saying. Probably they think I'm extremely handsome, but I'm only kidding. But they do like what I'm saying. And frankly, we had 68,000 people, as you know, a few weeks ago in Alabama, 38,000 in Georgia just this past weekend. And that's with Georgia playing a football game that day.
That's right. That's right.
And winning very big, 62-0. So that was, nice. It was a good feeling in that big arena. So I would just say that they like what I'm saying. They want somebody to say it. They don't hear it much, as you know. You hear these politicians talk, and they don't want to talk about anything, and that's why our country is going so far radical left. And, some people say socialist, and some people say communist. I mean, it's terrible. part of the thing with the media is, and as you know, what happens to countries is when you lose your voice, when they don't say what's going on, that's the first step toward communism. And it's a terrible, terrible thing that's happening in our country, what they don't talk about, what they do talk about, and maybe even worse, what they don't talk about. It's very terrible.
It is. Let's go to a little bit more current. This week, General Milley testified in Congress and defended his decision to call the Chinese, undermining you as commander-in-chief, and he defended his decision to keep Pelosi in the loop. What's your reaction to all of that?
Well, he's a strongly left-leaning person. He's been there for a long time in the military, but very left, a Democrat, and frankly, he's weak. And he's been weak for a long time, and I realized that during the course. When I walked down to the church, and Gene, I'm sure you liked it, and a lot of people liked it, most people liked it, but the radical left didn't like it, and they started really hitting him. And rather than saying, I'm proud to walk with my president or the office of the president, if you want, he was apologizing all over the place. And then very interestingly, he spoke to all of these authors, but then he said, no, he can't talk about anything, and said, well, he spoke to all of the authors of the book. So he's turned out to be weak. And when you look at what he did in Afghanistan, I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, leaving $85 billion behind of the best equipment in the world, Apache helicopters and everything. And obviously our 12 warriors, incredible warriors, killed, and many injured. We don't talk about that. Nobody talks about that, but many injured and other people killed. Could be as many as 250 people killed. This was all because we took the military out before we asked the Americans. I mean, we have Americans that are actually being held captive over there. It is a disgrace what the military did. They shamed us. They surrendered and they shamed us.
That's so true. And I know Americans, they're not letting this go, sir. They're upset about it.
I don't think they will. I don't think they will let this go. I think this is going to be one of those things that they're going to remember.
All right, last question. I know you need to go here soon. There are between 90 and 100 million evangelicals in America. And as you know, our Flashpoint audience is highly motivated part of that group. What's your message to them? How should they stay engaged with you and the nation during this tumultuous time?
So nobody has done more for Christianity or for evangelicals or for religion itself than I have. So many different things, getting rid of the Johnson Amendment, you know that's where people like you that we want to hear weren't able to speak because you lose your tax-exempt status, which is a very bad thing and very costly and not even anything that you can do. But so many different things we've done, Mexico City policy. We could go down a list of items, and I said that Biden was going to be bad. He's turned out to be far worse than anybody ever thought. You talk about abortion, you talk about all of the subjects that you do every Sunday and during the week, and he's terrible on these subjects, and he lied, and they cheated on the election. The election was rigged. Just like that happened. They also cheated very much on what they really think of organized religion and frankly Christianity. And I said it was going to happen, but I had no idea it was going to be this bad. You take a look at what they're doing; it's destructive. Also, nobody's done so much for Israel as they have, as you know.
That's right. With
Jerusalem and frankly ending the Iran nuclear deal, which is a disaster, and all of the other things I've done for Israel. So, and by the way, in the evangelical community, I actually get probably more credit for that than I do with Jewish people. But Israel's a very important element. So nobody's done what I've done, and I'm very happy to do it, and they've turned out to be much worse than anybody ever thought.
Right. Agreed. Well, sir, thank you for what you did with Israel. As you said, the evangelical community is very supportive. And when the embassy moved to Jerusalem, that was huge. That rocked the world. And that's truly a major milestone in your administration. I will let you go. Thank you so much for dropping by Flashpoint. Thank you. And on behalf of the Flashpoint Army, sir, we're behind you. We're praying for you. And we believe the best is yet to come.
Well, Pastor, you're a great man, and everybody respects you and respects your voice. And I am one of them. I'm at the top of the list. So I just want to tell you thank you very much for everything you've done. We've had tremendous success with exactly what you do, and it's an honor to have helped.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gene. Bye.
Wow.